Malcolm in the Middle is one of my favorite TV shows. I really like its crass sense of humor and idiosyncratic dialogue, especially since it stands out from other sitcoms of the same era. Plus, I have fond memories of watching the show with my family. So, when I heard that Disney was planning on reviving the series, I did have some reservations about the idea. After all, most TV revivals turn out to be awful. Thankfully, Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair is better than most other revivals that I've seen. Sure, it didn't blow me away or anything, but it did provide me with a nice hit of nostalgia, which is all I can really ask for as a longtime fan of this franchise. In this series, Malcolm has successfully distanced himself from his family, but is living a happy life with his daughter Leia and girlfriend Tristan. Unfortunately for him, he is forced to bring these two worlds together when his parents demand his presence at their 40th wedding anniversary. Yes, unlike the typical structure of the original show, this 4-episode miniseries has an overarching narrative plot, which is an interesting choice for a revival, one that doesn't completely work for me. If Disney really wanted to bring back the series, then I wish they would have fully committed to bringing it back. As it stands now, Life's Still Unfair feels less like a complete series and more like a preview of what Malcolm in the Middle could look like in the future. But since there are currently no plans to do any more of the show, this feels like Disney's way of testing the waters. Which means that if you want to see a full Malcolm in the Middle revival, it's probably a good idea to start by watching Life's Still Unfair. Personally, I think this series acts as a fun continuation of the original show. Structural differences aside, everything I loved about the original series is here. The cast, the characters, the dialogue, the humor, the fourth wall breaking, it's all here for fans to enjoy. And the overarching premise is also entertaining. Malcolm desperately trying to avoid his family is undeniably funny. Especially since, for being such a smart guy, it shows how much of an idiot he can be. I mean, I don't know how he expected to keep his daughter a secret from his family forever, but I'm honestly impressed that he managed to hide Leia for as long as he did. And I don't blame him for trying either, since his family clearly makes him devolve into a worse version of himself, which is always fun to see. But once Leia does get to meet her estranged family, it's fun to watch her learn more about them, though she doesn't exactly get to learn much, which is a shame, especially since I would love to know more about what's going on with Dewey's life, and Jamie's for that matter. On that note, it's a shame that we don't get to learn much about Leia herself. She may be a main character, but she doesn't actually get a lot of screen time. And that's probably because there are way too many characters on this show, which is another issue I have with it. Because while I'm happy to see side characters like Stevie again, the amount of characters that return here is inherently distracting. Especially since the show has a hard time trying to balance all of the main characters. Still, I do like what little development Leia does get here, especially since she's just as smart and socially awkward as her father. But I'm glad that her presence doesn't detract from the fact that this is her father's show. Unlike that 90s show, for example, Life's Still Unfair doesn't pass the baton to focus on a new generation of characters. Instead, Leia adds a new and interesting dynamic to Malcolm's chaotic life, which honestly feels like a refreshing way to introduce a new character on a revival series. Because the show gets to spend some time focusing on her character specifically, without having her take the spotlight away from the main star. Though, again, Leia definitely doesn't get as much development as she should, so dedicating the right amount of time on her character is probably a hard tightrope to balance. Still, I think she acts as a welcome addition to this franchise, and I wouldn't mind seeing her again in the future, especially if the creative team can develop her character and properly balance her characterization with Malcolm's. Speaking of which, it's a shame that Malcolm spends most of his time away from his family, because the family dynamic is an integral part of the original show. But by having Malcolm run away from his family, it feels like he's off in a completely different show. And the same can be said about Dewey and Jamie, too. Francis and Piyama have an interesting development though, and the dynamic between Kelly and Reese is definitely my favorite thing about this show. Their relationship is new, but it perfectly captures the essence of the original series. So watching them plot revenge against one another is what hit me with the biggest dose of nostalgia. Hal also gets plenty of time to shine, which is great since his more surrealist scenes are undeniably entertaining. Lois is given an engaging storyline too, which comes to a satisfying conclusion in the show's finale. As a matter of fact, the finale of Life Still Unfair is definitely the best episode of the series. Filled with plenty of humor and heart, the finale has exactly what I was hoping to see from this show. It got the loudest laughs out of me, and a few scenes even made me genuinely choke up. So, while I never thought that this revival would live up to the heights of the original show, I still had a fun and entertaining time while revisiting these characters. And that's probably because the cast is still so good together. Bryan Cranston, Frankie Muniz, and Jane Kaczmarek haven't missed a beat, so it's great to see them all together again. Especially since they're clearly having a fun time with Justin Bearfield, Christopher Masterson, and all of the other returning cast members. And though Eric Purr-Sullivan didn't return to play Dewey, Caleb Ellsworth Clark does an excellent job of portraying the character, even with the minimal amount of screen time that he's given. Plus, Vaughn Murray and Keely Karsten make fine additions to the cast as Kelly and Leia, respectively. I would love to see more of them in the future, which means that I would love to see more Malcolm in the Middle in general. And if they ever do decide to make more, Life Still Unfair will probably act as a weird bridge between the original show and the new one, which does put this series in an interesting position. Because even as a Malcolm in the Middle fan, I don't think this show is completely necessary. You won't be missing out on much if you do decide to skip out on this one, which means that I'm not sure if this show successfully justifies its own existence. Still, I can't deny that I did have a fun time while watching it. And it's for that exact reason that Malcolm in the Middle, Life Still Unfair would get a recommendation from me. Now, I should note that this review was first posted on my website, davidthemovieguy.com, so if you'd like to know my thoughts early, or if you would just prefer to read your reviews, you can feel free to head on over there, or to check out my page on IMDb. But be sure to let me know what you think of this show. And, as always, thanks for watching.